back is to text him a paragraph, post a petty quote, or show him what he lost. But let me tell you something that might sting a little. The moment you start chasing his attention, you give him power he never deserved. Because a man doesn't regret losing you when you're begging him to notice. He regrets losing you when he realizes you kept your dignity, your peace, and your value, and you didn't need him to validate any of it. And that right there, that's what makes a man sit in silence at night and replay every moment he took you for granted. Not your tears, not your anger, your absence, your glow up, your quiet. So if you want him to regret losing you without saying a word, you need to understand one hard truth that most women never learn. Let me tell you something that most people don't want to hear when their heart is broken. The reason he doesn't regret losing you yet has nothing to do with your value. It has everything to do with how you responded when he walked away. Because a man doesn't measure loss the same way a woman does. A woman feels it immediately. She feels the absence. She feels the silence. She feels the memories, the routines, the dreams. She feels the emotional withdrawal like a physical pain in her chest. But a man often doesn't feel the loss right away. He feels relief first, and that's the part that makes women panic. See, when a man leaves, the first thing he feels is freedom from pressure, freedom from accountability, freedom from expectations, freedom from emotional conversations he didn't want to have. And if you respond by calling, texting, crying, begging, explaining, trying to make him understand, you are unknowingly feeding that relief. Because now he thinks, I made the right decision. Look how emotional she is. Look how she's reacting. Look how much drama is coming. And he labels your pain as chaos. Not because you're wrong for feeling it, but because he is not emotionally mature enough to hold it. And here's the hardest truth. Your emotional reaction can become the excuse he uses to justify his exit. That's right. Not the reason he left, but the story he tells himself after he leaves. He'll say, she's too much. He'll say, she's always emotional. He'll say, she can't let things go. And meanwhile, you're sitting there thinking, how can he be so cold? How can he not care? Oh, he cares, but he is protecting his ego. Because regret requires humility. Regret requires him to admit, I messed up. And most men are not ready to admit they messed up while you're still available. Let me say that again, because somebody needs to hear it clearly. Most men don't regret losing you while you're still emotionally accessible. If he knows he can still get a reaction from you, still get your attention, still get your energy, still get your tears, still get your explanation, he doesn't feel loss. He feels control. He feels significance. He feels like the sun and you're the planet still orbiting around him. And the moment you orbit around a man who has already shown you he can walk away, you are teaching him that leaving has no consequence. This is where so many good women sabotage themselves, because you think love is proving. You think love is convincing. You think love is explaining your heart. You think love is fighting for it. But you have to understand the difference between fighting for love and fighting for someone who is comfortable losing you. A man who is comfortable losing you is not in love with you. He is in love with what you do for him. He is in love with how you make him feel. He is in love with the benefits. And when you're gone, he misses the benefits before he misses the woman. That's why he doesn't regret it yet. Because in the beginning, he is not thinking about your soul. He is thinking about his comfort. He is thinking about the freedom to do what he wants. He is thinking about how he can sleep without having to answer questions. He is thinking about how he can go out without checking in. He is thinking about how he can live without being challenged. And if you respond by trying to fix it, you are giving him the exact thing he wanted, no responsibility, but still access to you. And that is the most dangerous position a woman can put herself in, being emotionally loyal to a man who is no longer committed to her. That is how women get stuck for months and even years, waiting, hoping, watching, checking, overthinking, interpreting every breadcrumb, reading into every like, every view, every random text that says, hey, and you call it love, but it's not love. It's attachment mixed with fear. Fear of being replaced, fear of being forgotten, fear of not being chosen, fear of starting over, fear of the silence. But let me tell you something about men and regret. A man only regrets losing a woman when he realizes two things. Number one, she is not coming back to be used. And number two, she was rare, not just pretty, not just nice, rare. And he cannot realize either of those things if you keep showing him you're still standing at the door with your heart in your hands. You want him to regret losing you? Then you need to understand why he feels so calm right now. Because your presence in his life may have been the one thing holding him accountable. Your love may have been the one thing forcing him to grow. Your expectations may have been the one thing making him face his immaturity. And when he walked away, he didn't just walk away from you. He walked away from the mirror you held up to his life. And now he's in a space where nobody is demanding more of him. Nobody is expecting better. Nobody is challenging him. And for a man who is emotionally underdeveloped, that feels like peace. But peace without purpose becomes emptiness. Freedom without direction becomes loneliness. And that's where regret is born. Not on day one, not in week one. Regret is born when the noise of distraction fades and reality sits down next to him in the quiet. But that can't happen if you keep interrupting his quiet with your pain. Now listen to me carefully. I'm not telling you to play games. I'm not telling you to manipulate. I'm not telling you to pretend you don't care. I'm telling you to stop giving a man access to the most precious thing you have, your emotional energy. Because your emotional energy is your life force. It's what makes you love deeply, nurture, forgive, believe, build. And if a man can walk away and still receive your energy, he has no reason to reflect, no reason to mature, no reason to regret. And there's another reason he doesn't regret losing you yet. Because he thinks he can replace you. He thinks you're like a phone, like a car, like a job, like something he can trade in and upgrade. Because he's not thinking about what you carry. He's not thinking about what you sacrificed. He's not thinking about the way you loved him when he didn't even love himself. He's not thinking about the nights you stayed up praying for him, believing in him, holding him down. He's not thinking about the woman who chose him when other women would have walked away. He's thinking, I'll find another one. And you know what? Let him think that. Because the fastest way for a man to learn your value is to go out there and try to replace you. That's when reality teaches him what your heart was worth. That's when he meets women who don't have patience, women who don't have loyalty, women who don't have depth, women who don't have peace, women who don't have class, women who don't have discipline, women who don't build, they drain. And then, and only then, he starts comparing. But comparison only happens when you're not still available. If you're still there, if you're still answering, if you're still explaining, if you're still checking in, he never feels the weight of what he lost. Because he hasn't lost it. He just changed the terms. He demoted you from partner to option. And too many women accept that demotion because they're afraid of the finality. So let me say it with strength. He doesn't regret losing you yet because you haven't fully left. You may not be in his bed, but you're still in his phone. You may not be in his arms, but you're still in his inbox. You may not be in his life, but you're still in his mind because you keep reminding him you're there. And as long as you keep reminding him, he will never have to wonder, A man regrets when he wonders, when he sits with the unknown, when he realizes he can't call and get the same warmth, when he realizes he can't show up and get the same access, when he realizes you're not waiting. That's when his ego gets hit. That's when his pride starts cracking. That's when the memories start hitting him like waves. That's when he starts thinking about your laughter, your voice, your presence, the way you made a house feel like a home. But right now, if you're still chasing him, he's not thinking about that. He's thinking, she's still here. And the moment he thinks you're still here, he doesn't fear losing you. And if he doesn't fear losing you, he will never respect losing you. So the first step is not revenge. The first step is not proving. The first step is not begging. The first step is understanding. This regret begins where access ends. Let's talk about the silent shift, because this is where most women either win their power back or lose themselves completely. This is the part that separates the woman who becomes unforgettable from the woman who becomes a lesson. And I need you to hear me clearly. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not losing. Silence is not giving up. Silence is the moment you stop negotiating your worth with someone who already showed you what they're willing to do without you. You have to understand something about a man's mind. A man is wired to respond to consequences, not conversations. I know that sounds harsh, but it's real. You can talk until your throat is dry. You can explain until you're exhausted. You can send long paragraphs that come straight from your soul. But if there is no consequence attached to his behavior, he will not change. He will just learn how to manage you. He will learn how to say enough to calm you down. He will learn how to disappear and reappear just enough to keep you emotionally invested. And that is not love. That is control. So what is the silent shift? The silent shift is when you stop giving him the benefit of your emotional labor. You stop being the one who keeps the connection alive. You stop being the one who checks in. You stop being the one who tries to end on good terms. You stop being the one who tries to prove you're mature by staying friendly. Because sometimes being mature is just another word for tolerating disrespect politely. And here's the part that will shake you. Your silence is not meant to punish him. Your silence is meant to protect you. Because every time you reach out, every time you respond quickly, every time you give him access to your voice, your energy, your attention, you reopen the wound. You set yourself back. You tell your nervous system we're still connected, and then you wonder why you can't heal. Healing requires separation. Healing requires distance. Healing requires the kind of quiet that forces your heart to detach from the fantasy and face the facts. And that's why so many women avoid silence, because silence feels like death. Silence feels like finality. Silence feels like, what if he never comes back? But let me tell you something. If he only comes back because you kept chasing him, you didn't get love back. You got a man back who learned you'll accept crumbs. The silent shift is the moment you decide, I am not available for confusion. That's the moment you decide, I am not available for inconsistency. That's the moment you decide, I am not available for half love, because half love is not love. It's emotional starvation. It keeps you alive enough to stay, but weak enough to never demand more. Now, I need you to understand why silence hits a man so hard. A man expects you to react. He expects you to be emotional. He expects you to ask questions. He expects you to beg for closure. He expects you to want to talk. He expects you to want to fix it. And when you don't do any of that, it creates something in his mind that he cannot ignore. Uncertainty. And uncertainty is where regret grows. Because when you go silent, he can't read you. He can't predict you. He can't control the narrative. He can't say, she'll be back. He can't say, she'll forgive me. He can't say, she'll always love me. And when a man loses certainty, he starts paying attention. That's when he starts checking your social media. That's when he starts replaying conversations. That's when he starts wondering who you're talking to. That's when he starts remembering what it felt like to be loved by you. But let's be honest. The reason women struggle with silence is because silence feels like losing the last thread. You feel like if you don't say something, he will forget you. If you don't fight, you weren't worth fighting for. If you don't explain, he won't understand. But here's the truth. A man who truly valued you didn't need you to convince him. A man who truly respected you didn't need you to beg. A man who truly loved you didn't need you to chase. So silence is not about making him understand. Silence is about making him feel. Because men don't learn through hearing. They learn through losing. And if you never let him lose you, he will never learn. Now, there's a difference between silence and bitterness. Silence is clean. Silence is classy. Silence is control. Silence says, I'm not angry. I'm just done. Bitterness is loud. Bitterness is messy. Bitterness is when you post indirect quotes. Bitterness is when you throw shade. Bitterness is when you try to make him jealous with another man. And let me tell you something. Jealousy doesn't create regret. Jealousy creates competition, and competition creates ego, and ego creates more disrespect. Regret comes from reflection. Regret comes from the quiet. Regret comes when he sits alone and realizes she loved me in a way I didn't deserve, and now she's gone. And you cannot force that moment. You can only create the conditions for it by removing yourself fully. This is where boundaries come in, because silence without boundaries is just temporary. Silence with boundaries is transformation. A boundary is not a threat. A boundary is not, I'm leaving unless you change. A boundary is, this is